estimated at about $9.6 billion. In another development, the Supreme Court dismissed 2 appeals filed by Senator Ifeanyi Ararume, asking the court to declare him the candidate of APC in the last by-election for Imo North Senatorial District. A 5-man panel of justices headed by Justice Amina Agui in 2 judgments affirmed the judgment of the Court of Appeal over a division. In Abuja, Viera Chinwuba, NTA News.
The federal government is appealing to the Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities, SANU, and the Non-Academic Staff Union of Educational and Associated Institutions, NASU, to call off the planned industrial action by their members, describing it as counterproductive as well as unlawful. The Minister of Labour and Employment, Dr. Chris Ngige, announced the government's plea while briefing journalists after an audience with President Muhammadu Buhari on the developments. State House correspondent Adamu Sambu reports that the minister also clears the air on the controversy surrounding the reappointment of Ahmed Idris as the Accountant General of the Federation.
SANU and NASU have written their branches to commence a nationwide strike beginning midnight Friday over, amongst others, the federal government's handling of the integrated personnel and payroll information system sharing formula of the 40 billion naira and academic allowances and non-payment of arrears of the new minimum wage. But after deliberating on the matter with President Muhammadu Buhari, Labour and Employment Minister Dr. Chris Ngige told newsmen that steps have already been taken by the federal government towards addressing the cardinal issues raised by the unions and described the planned strike as not only uncalled for but also unlawful.
After conferring with my president, we are telling the unions not to carry out the action, because that action will run counter to ILO statutes on social dialogue and principles at work, because the employers have listened, they have brought them to the table. So for SANU and NASU, we are imploring them not to carry out their threat, which they said would take effect from this midnight. More so, when the meeting adjourned at their own instance. And just this morning I have received a letter from them giving us a new date for the continuation of the dialogue. They proposed a date of Thursday, 11th of February, and my office has communicated them back that will be ready for them at that time, because they needed, as they claimed, they needed time to consult with their constituency and come back on the fresh issues that have cropped up from the discussion. It's a question of them giving government some time. I'm very optimistic that if they give us 3 months, the finance minister will do the needful.
Dr. Chris Ngige's discussion with the president also centered on the reappointment of Ahmed Idris as the Accountant General of the Federation.
Therefore, Mr. President have exercised his powers under Section 171 of 1999 Constitution as amended in reappointing Mr. Ahmed Idris with effect from June 25, 2019, not even today. So the man has a tenure of 4 years, which will, by efflution of time of appointment, lapse 2023 June.
It will be recalled that the Trade Union Congress and the Senior Staff Association of Nigeria had contacted the government demanding that Ahmed Idris should vacate his office, having clocked 60 years. From the State House, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
Meanwhile, the Federal Character Commission has suspended its recruitment process as part of efforts to sustain harmonious relationship with its Board of Management and Federal Commissioners. Kelvin Ebonwaye reports.
The management of the Federal Character Commission and the commissioners have for some time been in disagreement over issues of operations involving recruitment and award of contracts. At a press briefing, the management stressed that all issues raised by the commissioners are being resolved and that the suspension of the recruitment process is part of moves to ensure that both the Board of Management and the commissioners are on the same page to deliver on the mandate of the Commission for the benefits of Nigerians.
In the process of recruitment. So the procedures are there. So when the time comes to conclude that recruitment or to bring the recruitment on board, then those infractions that were noticed for which a cancellation was necessitated will be looked into. So that is why we say the process had to be followed.
The Federal Character Commission is the agency of government saddled with the responsibility of ensuring due process and equity in the recruitment and spread of employees in government ministries and organizations. In Abuja, Kelvin Ewonwaye, NTA News.
Now, the federal government is building skills of young graduates that will work across the power sector value chain in line with local content development policy. Joshua Ojito reports that the National Power Training Institute of Nigeria is driving the training with 85 graduates as the latest beneficiaries.
A very sensitive sector, but seen as all-comers affair, leading to death and fire outbreaks in most cases. This is the story of the nation's power sector. So, flushing out unprofessionals and bringing in professionals is a gradual process, and the federal government is fronting this cause, while the National Power Training Institute of Nigeria is the midwife. 85 graduates now set to offer professional practice in the three critical areas of generation, transmission, and distribution.
I can sell my knowledge, maybe with the solar installation, because we have been grounded fully with solar panel installation. I wish to contribute my quota in the Nigerian power sector in order to improve it, make it more efficient.
Governments of Ekiti, Bauchi and Kebbi states, as well as other players in the sector, supported the training.
The agreement between Nigeria and France, made possible by Mr. President, is to really develop vocational training. And by developing vocational training, that means that Mr. President's vision is to really build up skills.
Minister of State for Power, Godi J.D. Agba, says federal government is committed to building capacity of youth to enable the likes of Abiodun and many others realize their potential. In Abuja, Joshua Ojito, NTA News.
25 states and the FCT are requesting the creation of additional 5,798 polling units from INEC to reduce voters' apathy. To this end, INEC has commenced consultative meetings with stakeholders, beginning with political parties. Mir Ogidi reports.
Not a rally, but a polling unit in Edo State. Not wailing, but waiting to vote. There is dreaded disease, but no distance. This and more created the consciousness for the need for more polling units.
Many of them are located in conflict areas or in homes of political chieftains, and some in deep forests and shrines as well. It also manifests the crisis, in poor electoral services, such as late commencement of polls.
Figures from INEC, 1999 to 2019. Polling units movement static. Voters registration increasing. Percentage of turnout dynamic. Time for solution. INEC and political parties sitting for a common cause. Out of the 5,798 polling units, Borno State is requesting for 1,235, Niger 1,042, while Bauchi State made the lowest with 2 only.
The Commission is of the firm belief that expanding voter access to polling units in Nigeria is crucial to voter turnout in elections. In the context of the COVID-19 pandemic, it is necessary to decongest polling units to minimize overcrowding. Unfortunately, the last time polling units were established was 25 years ago in 1996.
I am glad that this is a discussion paper and we're going to do justice to it.
Consultations with more groups expected to give birth to a new look in the polling unit chart of the political map in Nigeria. Mie Ogidi, NTA News.
The FCT Minister of State, Ramatu Tijani Aliyu, has expressed worry over the frequent fire outbreaks in major markets across the territory as she sympathizes with victims of the recent Gwarimpa Tipper Garage market fire incident that claimed one life. Ifeanyi Ezumba reports.
FCT Minister of State Ramatu Tijani Aliyu, who visited the scene alongside the Managing Director and Chief Executive of the Federal Housing Authority, the FCT Director of Fire Service, Malam Sani Seidu, among others, called for upgrade of the market in line with global best practices.
Government will put heads together with all stakeholders to ensure that we're able to come to the rescue and support of affected victims of the inferno who lost their properties.
While conducting the minutes around the scene of the incidents, the acting director, FCT Fire Service, Sani Seidu, says although the officials responded immediately but could not gain access to the market due to bad road network, the FCT Minister of State emphasized that the administration will look at the real drawing of the territory to see how the market can be upgraded. In Abuja, Ifeanyi Ezumba, NTA News.
Now, the Corps Marshal of the Federal Road Safety Corps, Boboye Oyeyemi, has warned officers and men of the Corps on the full enforcement of the COVID-19 Health Protection Regulation 2021, as motorists and officers who flout or neglect the directive will be handed over to the disciplinary body of the Corps. The Corps Marshal said this at a meeting with zonal commanding officers of the Corps in Abuja. Oyeyemi Ajayi has details.
On the 27th of January 2021, President Muhammadu Buhari signed the Coronavirus Health Protection Regulations 2021 into law in order to cap the continuous spread of the coronavirus. This informed this strategic meeting of the FRSC. The Corps intends to ensure full enforcement and compliance by road users, which implies that they must wear face masks, maintain physical and social distance in vehicles, as well as sanitize materials used by transporters and passengers.
Builds on us on the highways and at the motor parks to do daily surveillance and ensure that the compliance is there. And if the compliance is having crisis, then we activate to the next level in terms of prosecution.
In strategizing towards immediate reduction of road traffic crashes and fatalities, the Corps Marshal charged officers to maximally utilize mobile courts across the country by making more arrests of culprits engaged in overspeeding and overloading.
You have seen now that we started taking some drivers, some motorists to the mobile courts. We are going to combine mobile courts with this and the magistrate courts. I must commend the chief judges nationwide.
Road users were, however, warned not to be caught on the wrong side of the law, as no one will be spared if found guilty, while reminding them that the second wave of COVID-19 is more dangerous than the first. In Abuja, Oyeyemi Ajayi, NTA News.
About 16 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines have been expected in Nigeria as the federal government intensifies efforts to tame the monster. Beyond the conspiracy theories surrounding the COVID-19 vaccines, the accessibility of the vaccines to save more than 206 million Nigerians calls for concern. Austin Edemodu therefore examines how the ongoing efforts by the government to procure the vaccines can yield results in the battle against coronavirus pandemic.
More than 50 COVID-19 vaccine candidates are in trial. More than 100 million of the approved COVID-19 vaccine doses have been administered worldwide, an average of 4.25 doses a day. Nigeria is expecting 16 million doses in weeks to come. Even before the arrival of the vaccines, some Nigerians are already sentimental over the vaccine.
What we are reading in the social media, that they are bringing it down to Africa to kill many people. So I cannot take it. Instead, I'll go for the malaria drug I also do. Because I believe that this COVID-19 and malaria, they are the same.
Is this particular respondent over-religious?
I've already gotten my own vaccine from God.
There may be instances where it doesn't work for an individual or some for one reason or the other, or because they say MRI or whatever they are saying, the claim that these are just claims. It's not be substantiated.
For those who bank on herbal drugs as alternative, medical experts warn of devastating consequences.
I've had cause to lose very close family members. One of them believes in this herbal practice. People should not indulge in any cultural practice that is not scientifically proven.
So far, Nigeria has recorded more than 1,607 deaths. Austin Edemodu, NTA News.
And that's the AM News this morning. Many thanks for watching. Time now to cross over to our other studio to join Thelma for the rest of Weekend Deal, Africa's biggest deal. Good morning once again.
Thank you, Ayodeji. Indeed, it was a very pleasant experience listening to you disseminating information on the news. Let's take a look at what's headlining our dailies this weekend morning. We take off with the Daily Trust. Below the masthead, stop onslaught of Fulani communities, says the police. Governors Uzodinma, Badaru, Bagudu attend Southeast Pali. Details of this can be found on page 4 of the Daily Trust. Below that, as insecurity creeps into 2021, attacks, distrust persist in states. Security agencies sustain operations. Besides that, around and about, how rivers Benue, Gongola, confluence can boost tourism in Adamawa. How rivers Benue, Gongola confluence can boost tourism in Adamawa. Details on pages 11 and 12. Fact check. Hashtag NSARS. What really happened in Oyibo? Details of that can be found on pages 34 and 35. At the bottom part of the paper, let me start from my extreme right. World Trade Organization, Korean quits race for Okonjo-Iweala. Details can be found on page 4. Devastated by erosion, Lagos coastal community faces extinction. More details on page 37. Visit to Nagarta, 115-year-old college that produced great Nigerians. More details on page 9. Sheikh Abdul Jabbar's ban not political, says the governor of Kano State, Governor Ganduje. Court backs governor. Details of this story can be found on page 4 of the Daily Trust. Let's take a look at the blueprint weekend. Above the masthead, where are they now? Talking about Olusegun Aganga and Abubakar Iyaradua. More details can be found on page 35. Israel donates medical equipment to boost Nigeria's health care. Details on page 8. Marginalization, poverty, illiteracy, fuel banditry in Zamfara, says Sheikh Gumi. Details on page 9. We told you that already, that the South Korean candidate who was gunning for the position of the Director General of the World Trade Organization has stepped aside, making Nigeria's own Okonjo-Iweala the sole candidate. The bold headline here: insurgency, banditry, others, new service chiefs, citizens, old worries. Troops' welfare should be a priority. Strategic coordination, citizen support, key, says expert. New chiefs must fuse on predecessors' achievements, says Colonel Isiaka. There should be new impetus in insurgency fight, says Adamu. Not here to Huru. All hands must be on deck, says Ibrahim. Details of this and other stories on page 5 of the Blueprint Weekend. Below that, Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, directs banks, others to close cryptocurrency accounts. More details on page 7. 2023, I will never malign Tinubu, says the governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike. Also on page 7, Amnesty International plotting to destabilize Nigeria. This is credited to the federal government. Details of that on page 19 of the Blueprint Weekend. At the bottom part of the paper, why we are creating new polling units. And this is coming from the boss, the man at the helm of affairs of INEC. We continue to take a look now, and let's move over now to the weekend, the leadership weekend. Below the masthead, My Secret Life, I learned balancing family with work, says Husseina. More details of that can be found on page 31 of the paper. Give us 3 months. Federal government appeals to SANU and NASU. My husband uses charms on me, wife tells court. Details of that on page 12 of the leadership weekend. Below that, a story about Okonjo-Iweala. So let's go further down to the bold headline of the paper. States flout presidential order on COVID-19 protocols. With the riders, don't molest, abuse human rights, only monitor compliance. NSCDC warns officers. Federal government explains why President Muhammadu Buhari, the Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, governors will be vaccinated first. More details of that on page 4. Central Bank of Nigeria orders banks to close all accounts transacting in cryptocurrency. We told you about that earlier. I was sold 4 times to human traffickers, says Libya returnee. Wow. Shao Awonga mass wedding, Kwara festival robbed of festivity by COVID-19. There's details of that in the paper. Kaduna Abuja Road, female soldiers to the rescue. Details can be found on page 29. Isn't that interesting? We continue now with the Saturday Sun. Beside the masthead, bandits killed 10 in Kaduna Rivers. Residences flee Ogoni community. Below that, the governor of Kano State shuts popular Islamic preacher's mosque in Kano. With the rider, Sheikh Abdul Jabbar is saying that the governor's action is a political vendetta. There's more details of that story on page 10 of the Saturday Sun. Below that, Miyetti Allah threatens Ondo government over arrest of 37 herdsmen, 5,000 cows by Amoteco Co. Don't dare Fulani, Bodejo warns Akeredolu, that's the governor of Ondo State. Miyetti Allah Cattle Breeders Association of Nigeria, MAGBAN, insists governors must create cattle settlements for 24 million herders across Nigeria for lasting peace. We are tired of your atrocities, Governor fires back. Details of that and other stories can be found on pages 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, and 29 of the Saturday Sun. Besides that, something that will inspire and motivate. Sunny Danja is talking about My Grass to Grace story. And of course, we know of him, a Kannywood star who continues to leave lasting imprints in the entertainment industry. Murder in church, an unpleasant story there. Gunmen kill man, wife, daughter in Anambra Worship Center. IPOB attacks police division in Ebonyi, raises building, 4 vehicles. Well, we move on to the Saturday Telegraph above the masthead. Tragedies, 8 dead, 14 injured in auto crashes in Kaduna. With the riders, Fulani herdsmen kill 48-year-old farmer in Ondo. NSAS protest made me a widow, mother of 3. Laments. Details can be found on pages 2 and 4 of the Saturday Telegraph. Besides that, Imo North. Supreme Court declines to dismiss judgment sacking Ararume. More details of that on page 7. Now the bold headline, Restructuring New Constitution, Solutions to Rising Insecurity. So says ACF, as the Arewa Consultative Forum, the MPF, and Ohanese. Below that, Shegumi, federal government prefer ways to tackle bandits insurgents. Too risky to allow Nigerians carry guns, says General Sura. Downplaying Insecurity will not solve problems, says Shagoni. Below that, foreign investment inflow slumps by 26.81% in the fourth quarter of 2020 as the Central Bank of Nigeria directs DMBs and BFIs to close cryptocurrencies. Court restrains DMO from paying 628 million naira to oil firm. There's details of the stories on page 5. Below that, federal government declares SANU-NASU strike illegal. Amnesty Office, we complied with financial regulations over unspent 26 billion naira. Well, who sent that? You need to get a copy of the Saturday Telegraph. Finally, United Arab Emirates backs down as federal government lifts suspension on Emirates, talking about the airline. More details of that if you turn to page 6 of the Saturday Telegraph. What can we find when we take a look at the Saturday Independent? Well, I'll just give you a brief. Above the masthead, SANU-NASU strike illegal, can't stand, says Labour Minister. We have there the visage of Mr. Ngige, the Minister of Labour. Court hasn't dismissed 900 billion naira EFCC charge against ex-Governor Yari, says Shinkafi. Besides that, hoodlums attack police divisions in Ebonyi, kill policeman, burn facilities. Below that, below the masthead, insecurity, how tribal religious bigotry emboldens herdsmen. How? When you get a copy of the paper, you will get to know more. But in a related development, the writers say Nigerians insist federal government should fish out criminals amongst them. Ask the president why herders carry AK-47 guns unchallenged, said security expert. Northern leaders' inflammatory statements expose their ignorance, says lawyer. Law-abiding Fulanis don't have a problem with their hosts, says Mietiala chieftain. Lights, camera, beauty, the real Temidayo Babatunde. You see the beautiful visage there of a lady, and when you get a copy of the Saturday Independent, you can know more about her. At last, the Director General of the Nigerian Stock Exchange, Oscar Oyema, ties nuptial knot with fiancé. Congratulations to them both. Very arresting couple, I would say. How far can DJ Copy go? Well, some might say she has come quite far, and it's our hope and our prayer that she continues to do very well for herself. Comparing me with Duncan Mighty disrespectful, says Timaya. Finally, it's time to look at the Sporting Sun for the weekend. I heard Wolves clash in Didi to undergo late fitness test. CR7 can play into his 40s. Yes, talking about Cristiano Ronaldo, why not? If he's agile, if he's fit, if he continues to train, why not? Messi will sign Barcelona contract if may trigger Mbappe Salah transfers. Well, that's for them to speculate and for us to wait and see. West Brom set to sign Ahmed Musa. Balogun Aziz nominated for Arsenal Goal of the Month. Details on page 2. Governor Ikpeazu calls for improved club football in Nigeria. That's the governor of Abia State. Moving on paid sign-on fees. Kogi United players threaten to boycott league matches. Why? When you get a copy of the Weekend Sporting Sun, you'll get to find that out. Teofimo Lopez warns Mayweather ruining his reputation, but all many see is that Mayweather is constantly smiling to and from the back. Suarez blasts evil people behind Messi contract leak. Finally, Bill earns £9,000 a minute. Did I get that right? Did somebody say £9,000? Who is Bill? Can Bill play more than my producer, Sule Babaji Osman, that has been playing for years and continues to regale us when he's on the field, well, that's for you to find out when you come watch football with us over here. You've just listened to us let you know what's happening with the dailies this weekend. It's time to take a break. You're watching Weekend Deal. It's going to be a very enlightening package. We urge you to stay with us. You're watching Weekend Deal on the Nigerian Television Authority. We talked earlier about wellness, great health, well-being, and that's what we'll focus on now as we'll journey with Francis. He opens our conversation with this overview.
Nigeria and Africa in general. Cancer is becoming most common and more deadly with over 200,000 cases per year. Worldwide, cancer deaths are more than the percentage of death caused by HIV/AIDS, tuberculosis and malaria put together. It is the second leading cause of death in developed countries and is among the third leading cause of death for adults in developing countries.
Cancer is now the most common cause of death among non-communicable diseases. Initially, we are looking at cardiovascular diseases as the commonest cause of death. But now, cancer has overtaken it, and that's why there's an increasing global awareness. And how do we define cancer generally? It is a purposeless, useless, continuous growth of tissue that has no function to the body. Rather, it takes away from the body.
There are more than 100 types of cancer usually named for the organs or tissue where the cancers form.
Looking at most common cancers in Nigeria, if you look at the female, we have the breast cancer, the cervical, the colorectal, the liver cancer, and now lymphomas. So these are the common cancers that you see more in the female. And if you are looking at the male, you see the prostate cancer, the colorectal cancer, you have the liver cancer, you have lymphomas, you have the skin cancers and liver cancers. So all these cancers are the ones that equally we see more common in national hospital and most of the centers in Nigeria. So the prostate cancer is age-related. It mostly occur in those who are at least above 45 years of age. For developed countries, that's advanced countries, it occurs at older age. But for some of us who are who are blacks, it occurs earlier in the blacks. So that's why we normally encourage the blacks to do screening tests.
While some symptoms may differ between various people, it is important to get medications as soon as you notice the symptoms.
There's no particular general symptom you can see and say this is cancer. So it depends on the organ that is involved. And if you look at the organs we mentioned earlier, the breast, the prostate, the colorectal, and the cervix, each of them present differently. So let me take something like breast. Generally, at early stage, it's asymptomatic, no symptom at all. We don't notice anything. So it can only be detected by maybe a patient that is given opportunity to go for routine screening test, or patient who have a good health-seeking behavior, in which the patient occasionally go for routine health check. Then for those who are now presenting with symptoms, it may be that the patient will just examine herself and notice a lump. So it then means that any woman that sees a lump, breast self-examination is very, very critical in detecting it. So a woman should understand her breast very well, so that if you notice any lump in your breast, the first thing you are going to do is to rush and see a doctor.
The reason for the growth in cancer rates in Nigeria and the extremely poor countries are varied, which include unhealthy lifestyle and environmental pollution, late diagnosis, and poor access to health care.
We are doing exercise, we are eating a very good balanced diet, we are not eating all these junks, we are exercising very well, sleeping adequately, then the risk of developing that cancer becomes very, very low. Because if you are eating very well, you will be away from being obese. If you're exercising, you see all your system is pumping, everything is working actively, then some of the free radicals being generated in the body is being taken care of. Because of these free radicals that result in damage to the DNA that result to cancer, which the body, if it's overwhelmed and the body cannot help itself, then result to cancer.
The psychological effect of having cancer can be devastating, and perhaps the key issue is that most people simply cannot afford the high cost of cancer treatment, be it radiotherapy, chemotherapy, immunotherapy, or surgery.
Cancer is not a death sentence because it still remains very, very curable, especially at early stage. And that's why patients are presented very early. They do very, very well. What we need to do is to increase our cancer awareness campaign and strengthen our health system. Once we strengthen our health system and increase our cancer awareness campaign, I will assure you the number of cancer survivors will increase tremendously.
Today on Weekend Deal, our focus will be on cancer and all you need to know about cancer.
That's how we set the tone for the conversation. Our conversation is about cancers, the big C word. It affects people. Once you even hear about it, before you are told the extent, whether it's stage 2, stage 3, already the person's heart begins to sink. But like we had the head of department of the oncology department at the National Hospital say, cancer is not a death sentence, but early detection, early presentation is key to survival and good health. Thank you, Francis. And now it's time to look at cancers that often assail women, talking about cervical, talking about breast, talking about ovarian cancer. Perhaps we'll learn something from this. Question many often ask when the big C word crops up is, why me? What did I do that made me more susceptible to cancer? More importantly, where do I go from here? Cancers that often affect women include breast cancer, cervical cancer, ovarian cancer, amongst others.
Cancer does not connote death as far as you report to hospital at early stage, and we have current facilities to detect it and at the same time manage it. So the earlier people report to the hospital, have better health-seeking behavior, the good outcome of the treatment. Unlike before, we have advanced very much in terms of handling cancer cases.
What is needed now is coordinated approach. I was in the University of Medical Teaching Hospital, and I saw the bunkers that were being developed to take care for radio-oncology demand of cancer patients in the Northeast. We have in Sokoto National Hospital, and then in Lagos and other places that are coming up. And then currently also there are investment going in.
According to medical professionals, the rising global burden of breast cancer has not gone unnoticed. Ovarian cancer can occur at any age, but is more commonly found in women between the ages of 50 to 60. It can often go undetected and is often found to be present in women when routine tests and checkups are conducted. And at this time, in many cases, ovarian cancer may have spread within the pelvis and abdomen.
In Nigeria, the most common cause of morbidity and mortality among female cancer is breast cancer. And even in our clinic in National Hospital here, majority of the patients we see, female patients with cancer, they present with breast cancer. Most ovarian cases, we find it at stage 3 and stage 4. And when we talk about staging, we are trying to talk about, we are looking at the likely outcome of a particular cancer and the likely line of treatment that are going to be initiated for an individual. If it's an advanced stage, it means that the outcome is going to be very poor. But if it is early stage, the outcome is going to be very fantastic. For those who are presented at early stage, it's usually as a kind of incidental finding. Maybe the woman has gone for ultrasound. They'll find a small growth in the ovary, and that raises the curiosity of the sonographer.
World Cancer Day is marked February 4th every year. This year, the theme is I Can and I Will.
For the cervical cancer, everybody knows multiple sexual partners. Some of them you can even completely put a preventive measure to prevent those who don't have from getting it, especially the cervical cancer, through vaccination against human papillomavirus, that is the major cause of the cancer. If you empower women, they can sustain their education. They can reduce the number of girls' child that will go on street hawking. And then they will now value themselves and have self-esteem.
To raise more awareness about cancer, to encourage its prevention, detection, and treatment.
But most importantly, that we are doing to ensure that the country is to move towards reaching about universal health coverage. The universal health coverage can also address cancer. It's a simple concept that nobody should be moved towards extreme poverty while he is trying to restore the health he has lost. And this can only stop if we have reduced the percentage of people. As it is now, more than 70% of Nigerians have to use out-of-pocket spending to sustain their health care. Our Health Insurance Scheme Act did not make it mandatory to cover everybody. So the ongoing amendment at National Assembly that has already been passed by the Senate and is now for concurrence in the House of Rep is to make National Health Insurance Scheme mandatory.
Enlightenment and information sharing must be continuous, creative, and widespread to elicit the best outcomes. Cancer is not a death sentence, but early presentation, early detection raises the chances of survival, surmounting, and getting your best health back. You're watching Weekend Deal. We'll be talking with our guest, Dr. Evaristos Azodo, a consultant urologist and the president of the Nigerian Association of Urological Surgeons, in the course of the program. But first up, let's hear a survival story. Chioma survived breast cancer and she's having a great life.
Cancer is one word a lot of people are probably pretty familiar with, yet they have almost zero knowledge of what it is, how one contracts it, its treatment or even prevention remains a mirage to a lot of us. But daily, a good percentage of people go through the valley of the shadow of cancer. Some make it back, others never return. Weekend Deal captured a spectacular story of a survivor.
You know, this actually takes me back to 2014. I remember I felt a lump on my right breast, but I ignored it because it was silent. It didn't do anything. So, and I remember walking in, never imagined that that would be the beginning of a life change for me. And we proceeded to have the mammogram examination, and she said, "Oh, I feel a lump." And I said, "Yeah, it's been there for a while." And she said, "You know, let's just look at it and see what the mammogram says." They did a biopsy, and interestingly, the first report said that it was negative. But I had a very experienced doctor, which matters, and he said, "I am personally going to do this biopsy." So I had to go into the theater again. They did a biopsy, and you know what, when the report came back, it was cancerous. And you know, when I say that, I couldn't say this 5 years ago because I'm celebrating 5 years of being in remission, of being cancer-free. And so I came back into the hospital, and I ended up staying overnight from removing the lump. For a lot of us that have cancer, and once the lump is taken out, we think it's over. No, that's the beginning of the journey. So my doctor said to me, "You're going to have to have chemotherapy. You may actually have to do radiation." So I said, piece of cake, no problems. I had no idea the ecosystem of being a cancer patient. When I saw my oncologist, Phil Bernard, he said to me, "I don't know how to break this to you, but you are a stage 4 cancer. That's what we're staging you." And I said, "What does that mean?" It means that the cancer, which started at your breast, has now gone to your chest wall. It has basically metastasized, and it's all over your body. So we need to start treatment right away. I decided that I was going to take this on as a project. I was going to survive. I would not allow this foreign element that came into my body destroy me. So I said, I am going to fight this with two most powerful agents, which is prayer and science. I ended up doing 9 cycles of chemotherapy. I lost my hair. I went bald. And I remember the first time the doctor said, okay, we're going to do an MRI just to see whether this diagnosis is going to work. And I remember when the doctor walked into the office and he said, I'm happy. And I said, what are you happy about? He said, your tumors have shrunk from 11 to 5. And they went from 5 to 3. And they went from 3 to they disappeared. It's unheard of. Why did I survive? I survived because in everything that I did from the first time that I was diagnosed, yes, in Nigeria, it was Nigeria that diagnosed me. It was Nigeria that first treated me. So Nigeria has the capacity to save lives. Now, so many people have said to me, Choma, how do you deal with COVID-19 being a stage 4 cancer survivor? How have you been able to live within the pandemic? I mask up, I wash my hands, and I do practice social distance. As a cancer survivor, stage 4, it is no longer about anybody else around me that is asymptomatic. It is about me that has put my body at risk, in stress, and I survived. So when I tell people to mask up around me, sometimes they get angry, but you know what? When I explain it to them, they comply. Surviving cancer made me have a change of lifestyle. I eat well, I eat proper, I eat vegetables. And because I've changed my eating, it's giving me more energy. So I've started running half marathon. I work out. I am more driven in my work, in everything that I do. And I'm so very appreciative of the privilege that I have to live on this earth. It is a privilege. It is no longer a right for me.
That's quite inspiring, and everyone needs to hear stories that motivate and inspire every now and again. Imagine hearing that your breast cancer is at stage 4 and you surmount it, and she's looking so lively, such a hearty person, very cheerful, and she's touching lives. Well, we say well done to you, Chioma. You're one of the many lucky ones. We do hear that as healthcare and its delivery improves in Nigeria, we will have more survivor stories to tell. It's time to talk with our guest, the consultant urologist, Dr. Evaristos Azodo. He is also the president of the Nigerian Association of Urological Surgeons. It's a pleasure to have you talk with us.
My privilege.
And enlightenment is so key at this time. I know when I first heard about prostate cancer, it was about a man who was 79 years old. But in the years following that, I actually heard about a 45-year-old man having prostate. Is that peculiar? Does that happen often these days?
Unfortunately, that's not peculiar. The age for prostate cancer seems to be going down, as it were. When I was in medical school in the 70s and 80s, we were told that it was a disease of the 6th decade. Now we tell patients to go for screening at the age of 40. The reason being that age seems to be coming down. And age is an important factor in prostate cancer. You know, foremost is disease of the aging. Now the young people are getting it. We've had patients in our practice, 46, and they had prostate cancer that had gone all over the body, what we call metastatic prostate cancer. The bones, the lungs, everywhere.
What predisposes people to have prostate cancer, and why are we finding it now with younger men?
I love your question. It's because you asked me for predisposes. Now, the thing to say is that up till now, we do not know exactly the cause of prostate cancer, but we know the predisposing factors. Number one is age. It's a disease of the aging. It's a disease that has a predilection for black people. So even in America, black Americans have 2 times the tendency to have it than the Caucasians, and the Asians have the least prevalence. Now, the point to make also is that only men have prostate, so it's a disease of men. Now, and it has to do also with the presence of testosterone, a hormone produced by the testes. So so testosterone is implicated in prostate cancer, and in fact, a lot of the treatments for prostate cancer, advanced prostate cancer, targets removing testosterone because it's thought to feed prostate cancer. Then you also have this where we talk about some hormonal imbalance, an imbalance between testosterone and estrogen as the patient gets older. Hereditary is a factor.
So if someone's father or uncle had prostate, they should be very vigilant.
Yeah, not just very vigilant, they have a high degree, much higher degree, about 40%, more than the general population, to develop prostate cancer because, now I give you an example. If a man develops prostate cancer at the age of 70, that's older. His son, if he does develop prostate cancer, may develop it as early as develops it later, maybe in their 70s, in their 60s. But if he develops it earlier, his son will tend to develop it much earlier. So that's the problem. So how do we put it? If you have a first-degree relative father who develops prostate cancer at 70, your chances of developing prostate cancer is 40% higher than the general population. But if you developed it at 60, your chances are 50% higher. If you develop it at 40, your chances are 70% higher. So you see, even in the hereditary quote and unquote, it has there's a lot of problem in times you tend to develop it earlier. Then you have the problem genetics. It has also been discovered that there's a prostate cancer gene on chromosome 1. So those who have that gene will tend to express a prostate cancer. Now, occupation is also an issue. Those who work with certain chemicals, like lead acid, have a higher preponderance for prostate cancer. Now, what about our diet? People who tend to eat a lot of fatty diet may also tend to develop prostate cancer early. And in fact, obese men are more likely to develop prostate cancer than those who are not. It doesn't mean that the slimmer ones don't develop prostate cancer, because they do. But we're talking about chances now.
Chances are higher for those who are obese.
Now, we may as well just go on to take it. Are there anything that are protective?
Yeah.
For example.
Well, before we go to protective, you talked about genes. So I know that I've seen Caucasians are doing it now. It's been done abroad. I don't know if it's been done here. If your grandmother or great-grandmother or your mother has cancer, some people will go as far as removing the breasts. So if a man discovers that his grandfather had prostate and his father likely to get it, that makes him susceptible, or it may happen with him, what does he do? Does he go do some penile operation?
Well, this is very interesting because it has been discovered that if a man removes his prostate gland before the age of 30, he's unlikely to develop prostate cancer. But there's a problem there. The prostate gland has a function, and that function is very important for reproduction. It produces some chemicals that are important in the function of the spermatozoa. So if you remove it, that man is unlikely to be able to reproduce properly. So I do not think you will get takers for that. And also, if a man not just remove his prostate, if he removes his testes, rather, I didn't mean prostate, remove his testes. There are not too many men who are going to be ready to remove their testes before the age of 30.
Wow, that's interesting. So there's no win-win. But can we talk about symptoms? Are there symptoms? What also to look out for?
Here we have a challenge. Early prostate cancer has absolutely no symptoms. So it's a disease that steals in on you. Therefore, the way to discover is by searching for it. That brings us to screening. People will not screen unless you create awareness. That's why we're here today. So as to inform people so they can begin to take action. Early prostate cancer has no symptoms. Symptoms you find with prostate cancer are, one, symptoms that are related to coexisting non-cancerous enlargement of prostate. So that tells us in the prostate gland, you can have an enlargement that is cancerous and you can have an enlargement that is not cancerous. Let me explain that. Take an orange. I'm holding an orange in my hand. I cut it across into two. I want to use it to give you an analogy with the prostate. Sure. The central area where you have the seed represents the urethra. Urethra is a tube that comes from the bladder, passes through the prostate on its way out, and urine passes through there. Now, the fleshy yellow area around it is the area of the prostate that produces an enlargement that is not cancerous. Then the white outer rim is the area of the prostate that forms cancer. Then the green back is what we call the capsule of the prostate, the covering. Now, let me explain what happens. The prostate cancer begins to grow in that periphery, that white area. Remember, it grows out and it grows in at the same time. The urethra is very far. So by the time you have pressure effect, because that's what had really happened, on the urethra from this place, it means it's also gone far on the outside. So what does that mean? If a patient has symptoms and on investigation we discovered it's from prostate cancer, the chances are it has already gone far. So, but if that symptom is due to coexisting enlargement that is not cancerous, patient's probably still relatively safe. Then the other symptoms you may find is symptoms due to invasion of the organs around the prostate gland. The closest neighbor is the bladder. So if the cancer erodes into the bladder, the patient may be bleeding
which he may notice.
Yeah, when he's going to pass through his blood.
To come from there.
However, it's important to say that each time a patient sees blood in his urine, it doesn't mean he has prostate cancer.
But I'll ask you to hold that thought because I want to talk about survival rates and how the chances that men have, whether it has gone far or whether they present early. But that'll be after I ask you this question and then we'll go take a report. Someone is telling me that my colleague is saying that in his findings or research, some say that consistent and constant sex may reduce the chances of a gentleman having prostate cancer. How true is that?
That is a recurrent question. And I also want to inform you.
Why did you smile?
Because I'm about to tell you something. Because there's also another study that says that too little sex is also protective.
Okay.
So you have opposite side. So we have two sides. One says constant sex prevents prostate cancer. The other one says too much sex prevents prostate cancer. So where do you lie?
Okay, none is verifiable.
It is unrelated.
At this time.
At this time.
Nothing authentic in that direction. Okay, there we have it. Because of the importance of cancer and how it has ravaged many lives, many of us went out to talk to different people to ensure that you get the best information and the time you hear it is your best time. This report is coming from Bayo Oguri, our supervising producer. Let's see what you put together. We're coming back.
When people talk about cancer in Nigeria, the first thing that comes to mind is the female gender. However, research has shown that men also go through the agony of cancerous diseases, such as prostate, lung, testicular, and colon cancer, to mention but a few. Men, like their female counterparts, should show concern and take more interest in knowing their status and seek for early medical attention.
When we talk about cancer, most people, the thing that comes into their mind is a woman problem. No wonder. You see, maybe one of the reasons why we think fast like that, the breast cancer is the #1 killer disease in the world. So, and then the incidence and prevalence of breast cancer is very high.
Colon cancer is a type of cancer that begins in the large intestine, otherwise known as the colon. The colon is the final part of the digestive tract. Colon cancer is more common among older adults, though it can happen at any age.
Colon cancer is a malignant tumor of the colon. It's a cancer that affects the GIC. Rectal bleeding, abdominal discomfort, change in bowel habits, diarrhea, constipation, some patients pass blood in stool, mucus in stool. Family history is one of the causes. Exposure to radiation, previous history of cancer of the colon, change in diet, low fiber diets.
Colon cancer usually begins as small, non-cancerous cells. It can be treated through surgery, radiation therapy, and drug treatments such as chemotherapy, targeted therapy, and immunotherapy.
Cancer is multifactorial, multi-systemic failure of the body system. So you cannot just think that you treat it with one agent, chemo. No, so much has happened in the body that you have to look at it in different ways. You have to detoxify, remove the toxins. You have to look at ways of, yes, killing that cancer cell. Today we've come to have so many other ways of killing cancer cells apart from chemo. Conventional treatment for cancer, chemo, radiotherapy, and surgery. That's all we've been doing for over 50 years. Where is the success?
There are various signs and symptoms of colon cancer. A change in your bowel habits, including diarrhea or constipation, or a change in the consistency of your stool and persistent abdominal discomfort, such as cramps.
People should try and modernize their diets, as in take a lot of high fiber diets, and then cut off cigarette smoking, cut off alcohol consumption, cut off less exposure to radiation, and people that have strong family history of cancer of the colon, they should go for screening.
The best answer to cancer is prevention. How do you prevent? And those are the risk factors that we talked about. Make sure the diet is right. You make sure that you have a modified, lifestyle. Then you have to make sure that you are eating very well. One other key factor is associated with development of cancer or colorectal or be it any cancer is that of lack of sleep. Stress. Make sure you're not over, stress. Make sure that you avoid certain infections.
Colon cancer is sometimes called colorectal cancer, which is a term that combines colon cancer and rectal cancer, which begins in the rectum. Early detection of colon cancer can be treated.
We don't go these clean stages like that will enable us to live for 130 years because of our lifestyle. And what do you mean by lifestyle? Lifestyle is defined by the diet that we eat, poor diet, too much carbohydrate, too much red meat. We should be encouraged to take the green leafy, diet. There's too much of stress. Then you have parasites, you have drugs that we take, the aging, and then sleep deprivation. Sleep is also very important as a core and important factor in disease, prevention.
Thank you, Bayo Gore. Very enlightening, very detailed. Before we took that feature, we're talking with Dr. Evaristos Azodo. Dr. Evaristos Azodo is a consultant urologist, the president of the Nigerian Association of Urological Surgeons. Big word, big word for plenty medical experience. He's also the MD CEO of Chiva Specialist Hospital and Urology Center. I'd like to ask you this. A vasectomy, how does it save our gents? Is there any positive about that if one were to do that in a bid to prevent prostate cancer?
Unfortunately, it's been also found that the men who have had vasectomy have a higher tendency for prostate cancer.
No.
That's the unfortunate truth. So for me, the issue here is it now keeps the burden on surgical, family planning on the women.
But she's well able to manage it if she knows what is at stake. If the man discusses in detail with her, they plan together. But let's talk about coffee. Someone said coffee. If you take a lot of coffee, are you going to prevent prostate cancer in the long run?
Well, I don't know about that. That's information for me.
That's new gist, right?
So we need to find out. I'm not aware of that.
You know, many people are speculating.
Okay.
They'll say he drank loads of coffee. No wonder he never had prostate cancer. But let's talk about survival rate. For the most part, man or woman, once you hear cancer, the whole family meeting, everybody is talking in muted tones and all that. Everybody's afraid and scared that we may be losing a close and loved member. What is the survival rate like? Do we have many incidences of prostate cancer in Nigeria? Where are we at this time?
Wow. Nigeria is a very challenging situation for prostate cancer. We have a high incidence of prostate cancer in Nigeria. A global account study, I think it's 2010, said we had about 5,317 cases, and most of it, over 80%, died of prostate cancer in that year. But let's look at it this way. You had another study, 2019 study, that was looking at prostate cancer in Nigeria. They came up with a death rate of 32.8, although you don't have a fraction of a human being per 100,000. In the same year, they had 16.3 per 100,000 in the United States. So what is the difference? Health-seeking behavior, the screening, even though they have stopped the mandatory screening program, but it's still running on. People are more aware, so people go for treatment. In Nigeria, more than 80% of our patients present in late stages where we cannot achieve cure. That's unlike America, where you had a 75% reduction in such. In this study in 2013 in Lagos, they found out that they had 1,046 people per 100,000 who had prostate cancer. Of that, 26% were confined to the prostate. Okay? Then you had the rest of it were well beyond the prostate. So you find that the majority, over 80%, come when you cannot achieve cure. So
that means it's fatal. It becomes fatal eventually.
Now, but apart from that, treating a patient for prostate cancer that has gone beyond the prostate is very expensive. If the patient is gotten with prostate cancer when it's still within the prostate gland, you can do one of two things. Radical surgery, which means taking out the prostate gland and all the surrounding tissues, like the seminal vesicles and all that. We don't need all those details. We're talking to the medical program, medical people. So, and the surrounding tissues. Or you could do radiotherapy. You had shown a program on earlier on, but you do a focused radiotherapy on the gland, which could be by radiation, seeding implant, or external beam. Beautiful thing is that in Nigeria now we can give the patient full doses. In the past, when we didn't have what they call conformal radiotherapy, the patient were getting only about 60% of the dose because of inadequate shielding of the guts. But now they can actually give 100%. So, which means they can actually achieve cure in such patients. So the issue, therefore, is how do we get people with prostate cancer early in America? When they started screening, within 25 years, they had reduced the incidence of having patients with prostate cancer late stages by more than 40%.
Okay.
And the survival rate for prostate cancer, 5 years survival rate in America, went from 68% to 100%.
Wow. Incredible.
Within 25 years.
Incredible.
Now, we have people in Nigeria, because the FDA is I think about 2015 or thereabout, I'm not sure now, said stop mandatory screening for prostate cancer in America. They started in the 1990s, because in 1994 was when they gave the approval to use PSA for this testing. So they've done it for over 40 years. And they've reduced their, they've increased their survival rate from 68% to 100%. 5 years survival
But how are we going to be able to adapt their success story here?
No.
Are there chances we can do anything like that?
We can do that if we decide to screen. But you have people who are saying don't screen.
Why?
Exactly.
Why?
America says stop screening routinely, because we are now increasingly getting prostate cancers that would otherwise not be disease before the people would die. We're also having people who are overtreated. We are causing a lot of anxiety. That is a different thing from here. Here, well over 80% of patients are coming late. So we should try to find them early. When we get to the stage we're worried about, we can stop screening.
Okay, so you have to tell Nigerians now how you can find them early.
Okay, thank you very much. Prostate cancer, you can detect by a simple test. We have what we call the prostate-specific antigen. It's a chemical in the blood. A simple blood test, you take a blood sample, test in the lab. Normal values on the average is 0 to 4. So it varies from laboratory to laboratory. So if a patient has a PSA of 0 to 4, we usually say it's normal. Now, there's something we call a gray area between 4 and 10. If we find out that the patient's PSA falls between 4 and 10, we're going to ask you to do free PSA. Now, we now calculate what we call a free to total PSA ratio. And if it is less than 0.25, we tell you we need to take a tissue sample for your prostate, which we call a biopsy.
That means there's cause for concern.
Yes, there's cause for concern. So we do that biopsy, send it to the laboratory, and then it's going to tell us, is there prostate cancer? Is there no prostate cancer? And will also tell us the grade of the prostate cancer, because it's also great, because one of the characteristics of prostate cancer among the Africans is that they are higher grades, they are more aggressive. And the majority of Africans are here.
I hear. Okay. Early detection is key. Nigerians must go for tests. But just one question here, just before we round up our conversation. Someone is asking, he didn't tell me where it's reaching us from, why is the treatment for cancer still that expensive in spite of the amount of money being injected into healthcare and its delivery in Nigeria? The way things stand, only the rich can access and afford treatment, especially for cancer.
I think that question should go into our whole medical system, because I think that we have a system that is very poorly funded. I don't know what amount of money he's talking about, but medicine in Nigeria is very poorly funded. But more important than that is that the greatest problem with healthcare in Nigeria is that people are paying out of pocket. People should have insurance. Even the rich cannot afford treatment for prostate cancer comfortably.
No.
So if you have a cancer that has gone beyond the prostate, it's very expensive.
And it's a burden.
It's a big burden. So we should have insurance for everybody.
Okay, thank you very much for coming to enlighten us. It's been World Cancer Day in fact, the entire week. but on 4th, on Thursday, it was marked world over, and we thank you so much for this. Is so apt at this time, and I hope that Nigerians are listening and learning. Early detection is key to survival, and I'm sure that everyone wants to be here to carve a niche for themselves in different endeavors. Thank you, Dr. Evaristo Sazodo, consultant urologist, President of the Nigerian Association of Urological Surgeons, and the MD CEO of Chiva Specialist Hospital and Urology Center. Well done. Please
Thank you very much.
To save as many lives as you can.
And you, God bless you.
God bless you too. You're watching Weekend Deal. A break beckons. Stay with us. There's more when we return. You're watching Weekend Deal, and our focus today, for the most part, is on cancers. We care about you. We want to give hope to the hopeless and bring succor where there's little or none in terms of enlightenment, information, and knowledge-based packages so you can know the best way forward at any given time. Now, cancer as an underlying ailment and as it relates to COVID-19. Wale Hamzat is telling us more.
The increasing number of deaths recorded from the coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic is mostly attributed to patients with underlying health conditions such as diabetes, high blood pressure, asthma, cancer, among others. Adults of any age with certain underlying medical conditions are at increased risk for severe illness from the virus that causes COVID-19. Severe illness from COVID-19 is defined as hospitalization, admission to the intensive care unit, mechanical ventilation, or deaths. According to medical experts, these underlying health conditions weaken the body's immunity, which is required to fight off the coronavirus.
A cancer patient is already having problem with his immunity, and the SARS-CoV-2, which causes COVID-19, also has to deal with immune depression. Automatically, it's a bad time for a cancer patient. Treatment is costly, and the COVID-19 has no proven drug. The drugs available are repurposing drugs, and most of them have even failed. The only drug that is claimed to be a little bit potent for COVID-19, which is remdesivir, is not cost effective. So you can just imagine an African cancer patient. Remdesivir is said to be going for about $1,000. So how can a cancer patient in our own setup afford to do that?
The cases of cancer are becoming prevalent in Nigeria, and with no clear medication in sight, this has been made worse with the coronavirus. Cancer patients battling COVID-19 have been advised to share their medical history with the doctors to assist in the efficient management of their health.
A cancer patient who is already on a high-dose therapy needs to be very, very careful. So these are the kind of information you need to give experts that, look, I'm already treating so these things. Submit whatever you are taking. That will guide the medical practitioner on how to handle your matter.
According to the January 2021 World Health Organization WHO advisory, if you have an underlying medical condition, you should continue to follow your treatment plan as follows. 1. Continue your medicines and do not change your treatment plan without talking to your healthcare provider. Have at least a 30-day supply of prescription and non-prescription medicines. Talk to a healthcare provider, insurer, and pharmacist about getting an extra supply, that is, more than 30 days of prescription medicines, if possible, to reduce your trips to the pharmacy. Do not delay getting emergency care for your underlying medical condition because of COVID-19. Emergency departments have contingency infection prevention plans to protect you from getting COVID-19 if you need care. Call your healthcare provider if you have any concerns about your underlying medical conditions, or if you get sick and think you may have COVID-19. If you don't have a healthcare provider, contact your nearest community healthcare center.
Many thanks, Wale Hamzat, for that package. It is important that we manage any ailment we have very well. Get the best advice from trained medical professionals so we know the best way forward, and take every unusual thing we notice about our bodies very seriously. Cancers, with many ailments that human beings experience, early detection is key to survival. Let's talk about lifestyle. How can our lifestyle, our habits, whether they are healthy or not, how can they have an impact on cancer? Let's touch down with ETV to learn more about this.
They form lumps, spreading rapidly all over the body. They present in different forms, which can be of the breast, skin, prostate, colon, lung, leukemia, and more. These are different forms of cancer, and they are life-threatening. What really is cancer?
The simplest way to describe cancer is an abnormal growth. So the body has a way of growing from the time where in our childhood, and even to repair when you have damaged tissues and repair. And this growth and development are regulated. What that means is that it doesn't grow out of proportion. There are some control measures in the body that make sure that it grows at the rate at which you want it to replace the tissues. What cancers are is you have a group of tissues starting to grow out of control, out of requirement, and that leads to maybe swelling, that leads to dysfunction in that particular tissue or organ.
What are the early signs of this disease?
Lumps and bulk can work for something like breast, you said, or can work for extremity tumors, like you said. But there are also some signs to watch out for cancers that are inside the body, like you said. So we're talking about things like cancers of the gut, stomach, cancers of the bowel. One of the screening things is that if you notice a change in your bowel habit, you go maybe once a day, then it becomes that you don't go until about 2 or 3 days. That's a reason to call in, book in to see your doctor and get it checked out. Prostate cancer, if you watch in the night, if you pass in urine more than twice, then that's a reason to probably check things out. Then generally, when people start to lose weight, abnormal weight loss is something to be worried about. If you are not consciously making an effort to lose weight by dieting or something, you start to lose weight, then you need to see your doctor.
Cancer, according to experts, can be genetic, but there are so many other factors responsible for this disease.
Possibly excessive alcohol intake, excessive smoking, the ingestion of refined food, junk food, a lot of junk food. All these have been found to be associated, but they cannot necessarily be said to be a direct cause, but they are associated. There are other cancers that are occupational, due to occupational exposure of substances that will lead to cancer.
Indeed, some experts are quick to say that lifestyle choices in terms of what we eat or drink may be responsible for the increasing number of cancer in Nigeria today.
Nigerians today indulge in a lot of processed food like pasta, pizza, burger, shawarma, hot dog, and the likes. Red beef is also very acidic, especially processed ones like suya, bacon, and sausages.
In Lagos, the increasing rate of hustling and bustling, where little or no time is spent in the kitchen, junk, processed or fast foods come in handy. They can be satisfying and tasteful, but wait for this.
Food that have high sodium contents, high fats, wax, coloring, artificial preservative are unhealthy and very damaging to the human body. Processed food lose their nutritional contents to a great extent during processing, especially volatile nutrients like vitamins and minerals. They are also cancer-causing.
However, having cancer does not imply a death sentence. Early detection is key, according to experts. And as the world fights the COVID-19 pandemic, here is a candid advice.
As much as we're shouting about COVID, yes, COVID is scary, killing a lot of people worldwide. But cancer is still out there, you know, and people with cancer do suffer and they still need to be looked after properly.
I advise Nigerians to embrace a healthy lifestyle by eating a diet that is high in fruits and vegetables. Fruits are very beneficial, especially when taken as breakfast.
For all it is worth, live healthy, stay safe.
Your lifestyle is who you are. You are what you repeatedly do. So if you imbibe healthy habits, you have a healthy life. If you imbibe unhealthy habits, so shall it be with you. And I know we all want to live healthy, so there's no better time than now to begin to imbibe healthy habits and inculcate it in others. We'll take a break. When we come back,